Hi, everyone. Welcome to another off-season episode of the Pandesals podcast. And for this episode, I will be reviewing the movie Under Parallel Skies, which is currently on Netflix. The story is about Iris and Parin. Iris is a Filipino hotel receptionist in Hong Kong, and Parin is a Thai businessman who is a guest at the hotel that Iris is working in, and he is in Hong Kong to search for his mother, who had recently left their family. Iris meets Parin when he checks into the hotel, and for the next couple of nights, she's always the person who has to help him get back to his room because he's always drunk. At one point, Parin was so drunk that he went up to the hotel rooftop, and when Iris got there, he was saying that he was going to fly. So, being afraid that the hotel guest was going to jump to his death, she grabbed him and they fell on the ground. To avoid getting sued, the hotel manager agreed to let Parin borrow Iris so that she could join him when he searches for his mother around Hong Kong. During the time that Iris and Parin were roaming around Hong Kong to find his mother, the two were able to get to know each other better and they became closer. Eventually, they did find his mother, and he found out that she was living in poor conditions, and he was wondering why she left the rich family that they had in Thailand to be there. He later found out that she went there to join her first love, who she had met when she was younger before she met and married his father. So it turns out that this guy that Parin's mother was with was her first love, and he was actually someone that her parents didn't approve of because he was poor and he was uneducated. So she agreed to marry Parin's father, but she was telling Parin that she was never happy, and she decided that it was time for her to join her first love back in Hong Kong, which she did. At first, it seemed like Parin didn't really understand why his mother would do something like that. He kept trying to convince her to go back with him to Thailand, but eventually, as he got to see how she was with her first love, he saw that it was the first time that his mother was truly happy, and he finally accepted that this was where his mother belonged. Later on, Iris and Parin decide to move to another part of Hong Kong, and they decide to open up a cafe there together. And it's shown that this is actually where they admit that they are falling for each other. So they became a couple there, and they were running this cafe together, and they were really happy and in love. After a while, Iris tells Parin that she has to go home to the Philippines for a month. He tries to go with her, but she says it's something that she has to do on her own because she wants to patch things up with her family. So he agrees, and he says that he will be waiting for her at the port when she comes back, which she never did. And later on, the movie shows Parin sort of, losing himself because he was so heartbroken that Iris never came back, and he never got in touch with her again because she blocked his calls, and she would only send voicemails, and he couldn't find her anywhere. He tried to go back to the hotel and ask the hotel manager for information, but even the hotel manager didn't know where she was. And that's when he realized that, like his mother before, Iris didn't want to be found. So he was heartbroken about that. After a while, Iris's twin sister came to Hong Kong, and that's the time that Parin found out that Iris had actually passed away and that she was terminally ill when she left Hong Kong. The sister explained that Iris didn't want him to see her suffer, and she didn't want him to see her die. So she decided that she had to leave Hong Kong when she was getting really seriously sick. At first, Parin couldn't accept that she left the way she did. But at the end of the movie, he finally accepted that this was the way their story was going to end. At the end of the movie, it's shown that although Parin was heartbroken, he decided to move on and accept that Iris had already left and he has to go on with his life. And the final scene of the movie is actually similar to the scene that he had with Iris when they were watching the sunset, and this time he was doing it with Iris's twin sister. Okay, so now for my review. I thought that the movie was a romance. I actually went into this not knowing what the plot was about, but I did think that it was a love story, but since there wasn't any happy ending, it didn't feel like a love story for me. I was a little disappointed in that, but it was still a good movie. I loved seeing all those pretty background sites of Hong Kong, and since I've never been, it was really nice and it was really beautiful. And I loved the parts where both the characters were trying to exchange stories and things about each other's culture from Thailand and the Philippines. And for me, that kind of shows that love has no boundaries when it comes to differences in language and culture. And that was really, really a good, a nice touch. I thought the movie was okay, but there were a little off moments for me. I mean, one was when I noticed that they tried to use makeup to make Janella darker as Iris. I mean, I guess they were trying to show that she had a harder life compared to her twin, who had fairer skin. I guess to show that difference between the two. I wasn't really feeling that, but didn't think that that was necessary. I thought it was interesting that Janella was trying to speak in this sort of street smart, lower class ish kind of way, but every now and then during some of the scenes, the collegiala sounding voice would come out, which was, I mean, she was trying her best, but sometimes I noticed that tone come out. It was also funny because there was a scene where they were trying to show that Padin was moving on from being depressed about Iris by showing this shot of razors and scissors, like because he had long hair and he had a beard and a mustache when he was waiting for Iris. And when he met the sister and found out that she had died, he had finally decided to move on, and so he cleaned up. And I thought that was weird. I mean, it's not like he could have that kind of haircut done to himself in that house. I mean, I don't think even a barber can do that kind of haircut to himself. So that was a little off for me. As far as chemistry goes, I know a lot of people said that they had a lot of chemistry, and not really for me. But I mean, they did do their roles well, but I felt like something was missing. There was a bit of a spark that was missing there for me. I didn't feel that click. I didn't feel like, oh my God, they're gonna kiss, or oh my God, that's so sweet. I didn't get that. It was nice, but it just, I guess, not enough for me. I mean, it doesn't take away from their acting. I think they were pretty good, but I just, it was too low key for me. Another thing that I found interesting was how they portrayed the part of Iris being sick. I thought that this was like the big conflict that was keeping the two people in love apart, and yet it was downplayed a bit too much in the movie. Like, it could have been heavier or more dramatic, but they didn't do that. I mean, this could easily be a creative choice of the director to just, not make it too soap opera type or whatever, but I felt that there was something missing from it. I felt that they could have done pushed it a little bit more, put in a little bit more drama on that part. But again, it might be a creative decision. And I mean, it wasn't that bad, but I felt that it could have been better. I mean, as a viewer, that was how I felt. Another interesting thing for me was the whole she's sick and she didn't want to tell him thing. I think it's a plot that's been overdone for a lot of movies, TV shows, and for books. And the whole foreshadowing parts, the scenes where she was going to the doctor and when she was going to go to the Philippines after, and the whole part where she was crying and giving him the lovebirds and all that, it was very obvious that she was terminally ill. And I know that they were probably trying to show that as like foreshadowing the whole plot twist of the movie, but it was already too obvious for me. I mean, probably because I've watched a lot of stories with similar plots before, but I wish that it could have been hidden a little more so that it would really shock a lot of viewers, because it didn't really surprise me when they revealed it at the end. I guess I wanted it to be a little bit more heartbreaking than it should have. It could have been a little bit more heartbreaking for me. Another thing that I'm not sure I really agreed with in the movie was how Iris was convinced that she loved Parin so much that she didn't want him to see her suffer from being terminally ill, and that she didn't want him to see her die. And I don't know, I mean, as someone who has had a loved one passed away, I think that felt a bit selfish. I think that she could have given him the choice whether or not he wanted to be there for her when she was sick, and if he wanted to be there when she passed. Because I know, as someone who wasn't there for the person that I lost, I wish I could have been there, and I wish I could have been able to say goodbye and tell that person that I love them. And so I felt Parin's heartbreak for, the feeling of not being able to say goodbye to that person you loved, and knowing that you weren't there for that person when that person was suffering from the disease. I think that even if it was terminal, it would have meant a lot to just simply be there for that person, to have done even the tiniest bit of a thing to be there for that person. And so I think that Iris was a bit selfish on that part, and I didn't really like it. It made me hate her a little, even if she died. I know I've been nitpicking a lot about the movie, but there are a lot of things that I loved about it too. I love that part, that line about the sunrise and the sunset, about how there are 24 hours in a day. I'm paraphrasing here. There are 24 hours in a day, 23 we do our thing every day, but there is that 1 hour broken down to two 30 minutes, one for sunrise and one for sunset, and how it's that hour that's the most beautiful part of the day. I thought that was really good. That was really nice. And it's one of my favorite parts of the movie. I also love the parallels about the lovebirds and Parin and Iris, because when Iris went home to Parin with those lovebirds, Sawadi and Mabuhay, it kind of mirrored what was happening with them, because when Iris died, Sawadi, the bird, died. And when Parin let himself go, Mabuhay left the cage. I thought that was a nice touch. That whole metaphor thing was really nice. Another thing that I loved about the movie was this thought about choosing happiness. Parin's mother told him that wealth and happiness does not necessarily make a person happy. And then there was this part where Iris tells Parin that money can buy happiness, because she said, "Oh, I bought you this meal and it made you happy, so money bought your happiness." So it is really about being happy, knowing what makes you happy, and choosing that happiness in your life in the same way that Parin's mother chose her first love, risked everything to be with him, and then Iris gave up her job to join Parin, and then Parin also took the risk of choosing to live with Iris, even if they've only known each other for a short time. I thought that was the message of the film, was just choose what makes you happy, choose to be with the people that you love and who make you happy. I love that part. Really did. That being said, choose your happiness, but the movie also said, choose what makes you happy now, because that happiness was not going to last forever, which was kind of depressing. But the movie was trying to make up for it in the end by saying that although those things don't last forever, the memories of what made you happy would. I guess they're trying to ease you out of the depressing part about it not lasting forever, which was kind of sad. I wish they could have ended on that good note about just choosing happiness. Maybe they were trying to be realistic and say, this is real life. It doesn't last. But please, I'm trying to be entertained here and I'm trying to be happy. Please don't do this to me. But they did. So anyway, I thought the movie was sad. And it was not too sad that I didn't cry. And it had a romance, but it wasn't too romantic because one of the leads died, and which was fine. But I guess I kind of wish there was more to it. I thought that the ending was a bit sad because the scene where he was with Iris's sister mirrored the scene that he had with Iris when they were watching the sunset together. And it kind of reminded me of something that a friend of mine had said before about how if you have memories that make you sad, you should replace it with something that will make you happy. And I think that's something that Parin did with Iris's sister. The memory of being there watching the sunset is a memory that now made him sad because Iris was gone, and doing it with this twin sister and having a good time was something that would make the memory less sad for him. I was actually wondering if they were hinting at maybe Parin and the sister would eventually end up together, but I'd really rather that it didn't happen. So I guess it was more of an open-ended thing. But I really wish they didn't hint at it, because I felt like they did. Please tell me I'm wrong about that. I'd rather think that the two moved on from their loss as people who both loved her and not as two people who eventually fell in love together. um, as a whole, I think that the movie for me is a 3.5, 3.8 pandesals. I wish I could give it a 4, but it was a little depressing for me. The acting was great, the cinematography was great, the views were great, the story's good. I just felt that there was a little bit something missing, so it could be a 4, but not quite for me. But it was still good. It's still a good watch. I think it's something that would catch anyone's interest, especially if you love Asian dramas. So that's it. That's my review of Under Parallel Skies, and it's on Netflix. I hope you can catch it and let me know what you think about it. Until next time, this has been Claire for the Fantasy House podcast. Thanks for watching.